All right. I am welcoming Jennifer Germaine to It's Funny You Ask today. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. So happy to be here, Kendra.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you. So, um, I always like to tell people how I met this person, and I met you over Zoom in real life. Um, maybe a month ago or so. I don't know, right before the U conference's speaker applications were due. I had heard about you from, I can't remember who, but it was several people in a matter of, have you ever had that happen? Like several people are like, hey, do you know this person? Or hey, have you met that person? Um, and when after like the third time, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go look at this chick, see what she's up to. And was really excited I found your Facebook page and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to have her speak at a conference. I'm just gonna reach out to her. And then we got on a Zoom and kind of talked that out. So I don't know a ton about you other than a lot of people in the community believe in you. So that's good news.
That is good news. That's good to hear. And it's exciting to have a conversation to get to know each other like this too.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So tell me, okay, I know there's a lot about Jennifer Germaine, the public person, but what's private life like? Are you married? Do you have dogs? Like tell me about private life for you.
Yeah. So I've got a dog that's actually like literally right behind my chair, golden retriever, white. She could pop up at any moment, but right next to my right-hand girl that comes into, told ya,
There
on
she is.
cue, she starts moving in the video. So she's in my life. I have a partner, Ben. He is also a local entrepreneur in Eastern Iowa with a startup. So it's just the two of us, no children, and we are just living like the best lives, actually. Just loved life this year. It's a crazy year to say that about, but it's just been a year where we actually leaned into exploring a lot more than we ever have in the past. So in some ways, it's been really good for us too.
Yeah, did you find out you had some time on your hands to explore things you didn't know?
Well, just different because we both were always in an office setting, and now where a lot of our meetings went remotely, we actually traveled more.
Oh,
So we
really?
went, yeah. So it was like unique for us to kind of, because we were huge explorers. We love the great outdoors, hiking, kayaking, climbing. Like we are just outside as much as possible, except for right now when it's
Yeah.
-8, we
No,
get a
not a
pass on
fan.
that. And so it's been fun for us to get out and explore and travel to different areas. So we've done that a lot. We've leaned into that a lot more in this last year, which has been exciting to actually bring more exploration into what could be seen as a tough year in
Yeah, no
2020.
kidding.
Yeah.
Or did you grow up in Lynn County in the Cedar Rapids area?
Vinton, actually, Benton
Oh,
County.
yeah, very cool. Okay. I live
Yeah.
in
So
Salem, so
yeah, I know. I drove through your hometown all the time to come here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I originally, I mean, I went to East Buchanan and I went to Wapsie Valley to high school. Both it was in the independent school district for a while too.
Yeah.
So we probably know a ton of the same families being in that, all the neighboring towns, they know each other too in small town Iowa. So yeah, that makes
Very
sense.
true. Very true.
So you started your career, I'm going to assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, right after high school and went to college and then to law school, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
in a boy's world, I feel like law is still, it's
Yeah.
still a world, isn't it?
It is. And I did it even more masculine than that because everything I went into in the legal realm was very, very masculine. So
What
I
made
got,
you decide to be a lawyer? I know so
huh,
many people as a child that say, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like those two go together, totally different fields, but they sit in the same thing. What made you decide that that's what you wanted to do with life?
yeah, that's a very good question. And I'll actually take it two different directions if you don't mind, but I'll tell you the first answer and then I'll tell you what I think actually happened on why I ended up doing it. So I excelled in school. I was really good at school. So it came into, my senior year in high school. What are you good at? Where do you want to be? And I wanted to be a doctor, pharmacist, or I was very naturally gifted with numbers. And I took an accounting class with a teacher back in the day in high school, and I really liked it. And I was just naturally good at numbers. So I actually decided to go on to be an accountant, although that's probably not what I really desired to be. End up getting to my senior year in college and people are like, you should really be a lawyer. You want to do mergers and acquisitions. You should be a lawyer. And I was like, what is this law thing? I don't know. Decided last minute to go to law school, apply for law school. I was actually working at Aegon Transamerica and in their division, corporate tax division, about how they restructure companies. I was like, I want more of this in my life. So I decided to
Really?
go, yes. So I had an amazing advisor there, Mark Polking, and he encouraged me to go into law school instead of, more going into accounting. I would have worked for one of the big 4 accounting firms. So I deviated, went into law school, did that. I felt like I was the only one that went to law school that had never watched Law and Order. I just
Well, I think when we think about lawyers, we naturally think about the criminal system. And that's what lawyers do. They argue things. I watched Donald Trump's lawyer argue yesterday, I think it was, and I was like, huh, that's a job somebody wanted, huh? That was
yeah.
literally what I thought. So that's what we think about when we think about lawyers, but that's not what you worked in at all.
No, not at all. I actually started working for a really large law firm. It's one of the best in the nations in mergers and acquisitions. And I was out in Omaha at the time. And then once again, very masculine industry there with
Yeah,
mergers and acquisitions. And I realized it just didn't match with my personality. I'm a person that actually really likes interactions with people and like more of taking time with people, getting to know them, helping them in many different ways. Like this helping energy, healing energy was in me. And mergers
really.
and acquisitions, you're kind of like rolling through people. So I was like, and it's very financial. And I was like, I'm not in my sweet spot. So I ended up leaving and I got into benefits and then came back, started my own law firm. And I went all in on working on benefits, actually, in apprenticeship programs in the construction trades. So once
Wow.
again, very masculine industry. My family came from the construction trades, so I could speak it very eloquently. And that's where I really took off in my law firm and grew to one of the top in the industry doing that,
So
actually.
you started your own law firm. So that's when you became an entrepreneur. When was this? What year did you start that?
Yeah, 2018, actually.
Okay.
So
So
I'd been,
that was a quick drive for you. It wasn't so long ago is what I mean.
no, it wasn't. But then when I started it, a lot of things happened for me right away where I just went really all in. Because
Mm,
I think knowing inside of me, and you have to have this in you too, is like there was a part of me that's like, I'm meant for more.
mhm.
And I'm not even coming close to tapping into my true potential.
Right. Yeah.
So
So at this point, like everyone watching or listening is like, how does this woman working in corporate law, mergers, acquisitions, construction trades, let me tell you how many of my conference attendees have anything like that going on. The
yeah,
answer is 0 right now.
yeah,
Someday. So people are probably like, what the hell, Kendra? How does this fit? So somewhere in here, and I don't know when, you recognize that you wanted to help people more on a more personal level, right? Is that kind of
yeah.
like, so you have another business and that's where Breathe into Fire
Breathe fire into
LLC,
life.
Breathe
Yep.
Fire into Life.
Yep.
Sorry, Breathe Fire into Life. I even have it right in front of me and I'm just straight up not looking at it.
Everyone, if you get some of the words right, like it's perfectly fine. Everyone does it. Yeah.
There's fire she's talking about. So just do that. Like she's
Yeah.
not going to teach you how to breathe fire, but maybe you'll feel like you can when you're done.
Yeah.
So you recognize that you wanted to help people, specifically women that would identify as a high achiever, right? Uh,
Yeah. Let's actually, I can break
yeah,
that down for
let's
you. You want
please
to
do. I
clear
do.
your path because it's very interesting in how I leaned in. So when I was building, like I mentioned, I knew I wanted to tap into more of my potential when I went off to be an entrepreneur in the law firm. So I had already been a practitioner. I've got books forever. I was a study, podcast, taking in all I could, but I knew it wasn't taking me as far as I wanted it to be. So I started actually leaning into coaching and going after, mindset leaders, master strategies in business, full-time coach that helped me in many different ways, seeing where this person's making a huge impact in the world and I want to be that person. So I started doing private work with them. I was started doing like 3 to 4 peak experiences a year where I would like really dive in to try to figure out like what are these boulders that's held me back for so long in life and identifying really where I want to go. And
Wow.
through all of that work that I was doing, it came very clear that my whole life, the one piece that has always been there for me is I've really wanted to help other people tap into their full potential. And knowing that I had done this for myself and removed so many barriers that was moving forward, I knew, and there was this calling that came up for me. Like, and when I say came up, it like was inside from my gut, my heart, where I couldn't ignore it anymore, that I was like, I could help women do this in their world. I've been doing it for years already in my law industry, actually, because the people I work with, I worked for years. And I was being called where like, I want to help women where they can become the top of their industry, like really go for their greatness and help them see like, this is possible for you too.
That's
That's kind of
that's
where.
awesome. And I think, like somebody that's not a lawyer, knowing, everybody knows what kind of grueling schooling you have to go through to get, through law school to get accepted and then to get in, and then, to, go through that and then doing it as a woman. So, in for all intents and purposes, you may say like, well, you reached the top, you became a lawyer. And knowing that there was more. I don't remember where I heard this story, but somebody just told me this analogy the other day, where I was in a meeting or I was watching a podcast, listening to a podcast. I don't remember what it was, but they said that this man talked about being going to law school and being a lawyer. And after a few years, he realized he really didn't enjoy practicing law that he had chose. And so he was going to go do something else. And his family and friends says, well, what do you mean? You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever it was then. I don't know, probably not that, to be a lawyer. So he spent 50 years in doing law because that's what he was supposed to do, and died hating the career he chose. And, he said in this analogy in the story that he wished he would have been able to take that and apply it to something different. So I wondered if that was part of it for you, that, yeah, you're at the top of your field, doing well with your law firm, becoming one of the top firms quickly and, rising and going all in and doing everything that it took. But like even recognizing that there was a little something more. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's very accurate. And I'll even take it a little bit further and show you like what was going on internally for me.
Hmm.
I had been so achievement driven my entire life. And
Right.
when I started looking at it, the reason I became a lawyer is because others were like, this is really like the next level, take it to the next level, take it to the next level. So I leaned into what I was hearing from others. And I'd done this my entire life. And what happens when all of a sudden one day you wake up and you realize the life that you had painted for yourself really actually isn't your life?
Mm.
And the reason I knew this was happening is because inside of me, I was feeling really disconnected. Like I was feeling deeply unfulfilled. Like I wanted something more, but it wasn't happening. And then there was this lonely piece. Like I was actually very lonely. I was talking to more people than I ever had in my life, but something was going on inside of me where I knew I'm off somewhere.
Yeah. Do you find that women in corporate America that are high achievers in their field, that they're probably going to be the last ones to have that conversation about, because you're not supposed to look that gift horse in the mouth, right?
Yeah, like it's allowing yourself to separate from an identity you've worked so hard. And like you said, all the pressure in the world is you can't look another way because you've invested so much over here in like my law background. But the truth is the people that come to work with me is they're just like, I can't do it anymore. I
Hmm.
can't continue to live this life where I'm just know there's something else for me, something else I've always wanted to chase, a deep desire. That could be one way they realize it. Like I've got this huge desire in me and it's going untapped. Or like, why am I not feeling happy about life? Like, why am I not feeling fulfilled? And it's because they're not connecting to actually their insight, like what's coming
Yeah.
up for them inside.
So then you just close your law office down and be a coach, right?
Exactly. You shift. But I actually am still doing the law. I moved myself out into a CEO role though, where I oversee a lot in the law firm and I train my team and I work with them and I make it special for them because that was my vision. And how do I create something completely different in the legal industry and then also do the coaching? Because what happened for me, Kendra, is I got to a point where I realized all of a sudden, like I wanted to help women do this. And I'm
Hmm.
like walking out in the world and I'm loving my law firm and everything I'm doing there. But there was a part of me where I would be walking my dog and tears would come to my eyes. Like you were meant to do something with women. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a bad, it was like, you have to do this. Like you have to step up. Like imagine what it would be like to work with them and imagine this. And I got emotional thinking about it. So I knew I had to do something because like you can't sit on that your whole life and not make a move. So I moved into it.
Well, I think, the perspective when people have a lot of accolades, like when they've achieved a lot of things, when they, being top in your industry or, making things move, is that's the pinnacle of success and happiness for that individual person. And I think it can be for certain things. And I think passion and like, going after what you want to go after, and being passionate about your work is helpful in that. But I know, I think you're right. There's a whole untapped market of people that are like, yeah, this, but I hate what I do every day. I don't want to get up and go do it. And so that's awesome. So tell me, like, okay, so I'm assuming they don't teach you how to be a successful mindset or business coach in law school. So how do you learn this? How do you learn, like, okay, I want to help women like tap into their potential and go after it, and maybe have a taste of what you had as far as going after what you want, but maybe stick some passion in there. So how do you go after learning to coach people?
Yeah, it's because I did so much work on myself, especially I'm still continuing to do work on myself and
Hmm.
being able to see how I had to make my mindset shifts over and over and over again to be able to really help other people because I know where they're going. I help the people that I know where they want to go and I almost hold the vision out for them and I help guide them, like keep them in the parameters to continue to go after that thing. And really the biggest part is like the boulders that get in the way, the blind spots, which some people say is people don't realize theirs are coming up. And a good example of this is achievement, actually. So if you take achievement, that is in one way, a part of me used achievement to get to the top of my industry in the legal industry, right?
Hmm.
Like I was an achiever, I was high end. So there's a good side of it. But there's also a bad side is because I put number one in my life was achievement and making sure I did amazing at work. And I put everything else that I cared about on the back burner. And that's why I was feeling so unfulfilled and unhappy and lonely.
Right. Yeah.
So unless you're willing to look at that side too, you actually don't have growth. So I started to really look at these areas, like all these dark sides of myself and tell myself a new story about what my life was going to look like just really exploring every facet of my life. And then that's how I ended up, that's how I help women so much is because I've been the teacher to myself. I was the first student, if you want to put it that way. And then I also work with other people, like I still get coached and et cetera to teach myself how to do this.
Well, yeah, you never really should. I mean, I don't think any of us ever can get away from learning. I mean, you can, but it's probably not going to help your cause at the end of the day. So many things are so interesting to me about what you've done. And as somebody that has had, when you're a high achieving person, you do it right, and no one else pretty much can. Which is really hard, and that's what keeps us stuck a lot of times. Is that we get in that control mindset. We become real sticklers about things being a certain way and done our way. So when you told me, like, you pull out of your law firm as the, like, operations manager, I guess maybe that's not the right word. Maybe he's the COO.
Like the person doing the work.
Yeah, the one wearing, probably 4 or 5 hats, the one keeping everything going, to like that CEO position. Who else has talked about this extensively? Steve Stryver in Cedar Rapids. That he's moved himself into different roles within his organizations too, to benefit the organization at large. And that can be so hard. When you start a business, you go in because you're good at it, right?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
do you work on that trust with people, on developing that trust to have people, because if you don't have those people to delegate to, you aren't going to end up at that next level because you're still doing the damn books, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So it's almost, I call it the art of letting go, cultivating the art of letting go, because to evolve to your next level, and let's say your next level is to become the CEO of your business where you can get more clients and have a bigger impact on the world. So this is my vision running through me is I want to make a bigger impact. I have to empower a team below me.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm just basically being an employee in my own business. And I realized this pretty early on. This did not make it any easier. I'm a little perfectionist at heart. So I wanted my employees to do everything just so, but I realized I can't get to the realm that I wanted to be at. So I had to hold that vision first and foremost, and then bring people in. There's many different ways. So basically, you let go of more and more things to allow yourself to evolve into your zone of genius. Anyone can technically be a lawyer in this world. I don't think everyone can do what I do, So it was looking at it from that perspective as I can hire another attorney to do the legal work and do really well and hire team members to book calendars, to take care of everything. But I need to lean more and more into my specialty. Like what makes me so unique that draws people into me and my businesses, and lean more into that. There's another aspect of this though, I think for women especially, is women, if they want to make the bigger impact in the world, we actually thrive in more space and time. So creativity comes for women, and the best ideas and how women can actually evolve faster and where they want to go and lean into their vision fully is by creating more space in their life, which
Yeah,
is
and
a
the
shift
shower.
out of
That's where it
doing.
happens. The shower.
Yes. So yeah, more than the shower though, right? It's
Right.
like shifting the doing, shifting away from doing and actually being more in being and creating and things of that nature is a huge, very difficult shift for women to make, but it is the most powerful shift that women can make in their business.
Well, I mean, we very naturally just want to take the heat off of people, and to help them and to do it for them and to make their lives easier. What, my role at U conferences is I call myself the Chief Empowerment Officer, and it started as like a CEO, like traditional type role, but it's really moved into, I had to say it out loud that way for myself, because if I truly want to be able to do all the things I want to accomplish within that company, I have to empower each person on the team to own her role, and to to take it wherever, that to huge places, even if that means that role and that journey is not the same path I would have taken.
Mm.
And that is a real hard thing to do in leadership.
It is so hard because if you're anything like I am, like I was so particular, like I wanted everything, like done in a certain way. And I had to start leaning in and switching my mindset about my employees instead of thinking that like, are they going to do things wrong? Or is this going to be different? Is it not going to flow? I started leading from the fact that I know I'm hiring amazing team members. I only hire people that I think are absolutely phenomenal. And I know that they can do the job. So I start
Yeah.
there hiring amazing team. And then I actually spend more time creating this space to train. So I make sure they know where I want to go, what my vision is, how they fit into the vision, what their vision for their life is, and how that fits into the piece too. So I spend a lot more time training instead of what the old energy I used to use, Kendra, to be honest, when I first had employees, is I probably actually did more of like a dump and run. Like, oh my gosh, I've got so much on my plate. And like I would start giving things to them and they weren't doing it exactly right. And now I realize actually, if I take more time up front and train, then that doesn't happen as much. And
Here's our standard operating procedure. Good luck.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't empower people to own a position. That just puts them in the seat to get it right or wrong. And that's such a good point. I'm always reminding people we can fix just about anything. I mean,
Yeah.
not everything. I'm not working in law though, so that's probably
Same
helpful.
thing, same premise.
Yeah, it can all be fixed. Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me like a little bit more. We've had conversations about what you do, and I'm super curious about how you're working with people. I do think there's a coach for everyone out there. I don't think all coaches are for everyone. And that, but building that rapport and trust is important. Um, I guess my question for you is like, how do you find the right people to work with in your business, that your coaching business, at least, that you're operating now?
Yeah. So are you asking me to know like who I work with or how I help other people find out how to do that for themselves?
Well, I guess no. I was asking you specifically, like, how are you discovering the right people to work with for you? Like, tell me about your target market.
Yep. Okay. Because I help people do this so often that I wanted to make sure I clarified. So actually, I lean into what I really see. And I honestly think I work with people that want to be top of their industry and have this like a vision flowing through them of greatness. Like they know they want greatness and it keeps them up at night. They think about it. They're not exactly sure. They need these tweaks. Those are the type of people I work with. And
So
then
you kind of like the people that need maybe an outside eyes of, because I suppose what we tend to do is to get one of my mentors says, get stuck in the weeds. Like we're focused on like, I don't know, the set of graphics we have to build instead of like the message that's on the graphics, or, even bigger than that, like, what our actual mission and vision is for our business. So you're helping people with that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's one way that I can do it. It's in many ways because I help people actually step into and almost like get this full embodiment of who they want to be.
And
And if you can fully step in and embody and be that person, and become that person faster, you will make strides like that. Because a lot of people are looking the opposite direction and they're really focused on like, why isn't this working out? I've got to do all these little things in my day. And that's not going to get you to the top of your mountain, is my mountain analogy that I always use. Instead, I help people see like, this is the top of your mountain. And the first and most important before all other strategy is if you can fully embody that you are the person that works with these types of individuals. So for me, it's like the visionaries that know that they want to be at the top of their industry. I help them understand. I have strategy too, because I've obviously done it before, but I help them see like, let's get you feeling like you're already there and
yeah,
putting things in place like as soon as possible because you want to grow very quickly.
yeah, knock some of those weeds out. And so you don't just work with entrepreneurs, that I'm assuming.
I
Like,
do sometimes work with leaders of organizations too. Mhm.
right. I was just going to say, like, there's probably a lot of people that, within their organization have a place that they are looking to go, or, striving to head to, that, they may be finding themselves in the weeds of those things too. It's so intriguing to me because no one that I've ever talked to has said, like, I want to work with people that want to be at the top of their industry. Like, you are very clear about that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that sends one hell of a message, because I suppose there's people that are ready to embrace coaching like that, and there's people that need a little more time before
Yeah,
they're
for
ready to do
sure.
that.
Exactly, because I don't take everyone on as a client. I go through a process with anyone that's coming through because the work I do, especially if I'm doing private work with somebody, is long term. I mean, it's usually 10 months to a year that I do with people because what happens with a lot of people in different arrangements, and I've done this, is they'll start to get movement and they'll change, but then and then they'll quit doing the work with somebody, and then all of a sudden they'll kind of like something will come up in life and it brings them back down, and they'll be confused why they weren't able to stay at that mark. So I realized pretty early on that the longer I can work with somebody, the more I can help them see it's really these boulders in life too, from all different angles, so they can identify what's going on for them to help them progress up their mountain even faster.
Yeah, that's really cool. I just think it's interesting that you're able to identify that, and you're very clear about it, and and I love that. So, taking all of that into consideration, that's part of the reason I wanted to, your message is really strong. You work with people. There's so you don't just do private coaching though. You've got some other offerings and like services that you do with, like retreats and things. Is that right?
Yeah, so that is more where I roll out an experience I take women on so they can fully step into their next level. And then
Oh,
they can get clarity on what has been holding them back from stepping into that. So it is a very unique experience I take them through, but it's almost like if you've ever had an experience, like I always say, like if you imagine true love, like when you first met, if you have a partner, like when I first met my partner, like the feelings you had, it was so
oh,
amazing. And
yeah.
if you can almost like save that, you can tap into it over and over again. It's the same when a woman wants to really step into her next evolution. And that may mean many things for many women. Sometimes it's just having more really play and feeling good in life. And what does that feel like to just not feel so stressed all the time? I've even done that with some of them. But once they can feel what it feels like on the other side, they have it's saved in their neurosystem in regards to what they can tap into in the future.
That is so interesting, because I just had a conversation with another mentor recently. We were talking about that feeling on the other side of success. When you find, like, whether it is like an actual award achievement, or it's, just hitting a goal or reaching something. Um, she was saying, somebody had said to her, if you knew what was on the other side of reaching that goal, you would stop thinking about it, and you would run, and you would run to achieve whatever it took. There wouldn't be the things in your way. What other people thought wouldn't be in your way. And I think that's kind of exactly what you're saying. So you kind of take people to that feeling, on the podium with the gold medal or whatever, that feeling, what does that feel like? And then help them kind of tap into that as they go forward. Is that?
Yeah, you're completely right. And like the gold medal, like you said, if you ever read anything about Michael Phelps or, the swimmer or anyone that has really done that in an athletic world, you see this all the time where they are visioning, imagining themselves standing at the top over and over. They're practicing, they're visioning, they're fully experiencing what it's like to have the gold medal.
Yeah.
That's similar to the experience that I take women through. Yeah.
And that's like a cool fit. Like a lot of us can say, well, yeah, I can see that, I can envision it. But like, can you, when I was first saying that to another coach at one point, and he said, yeah, but what are you wearing? I'm like, what do you mean? No, but what are you wearing? Like, what is the smell? What does the room smell like? And, kind of in through that. And I think that's what we lose when the going gets tough. And that's, I think, where coaching can come in any level, or whatever kind of coach you have, is because you don't need a coach for when you're motivated. You don't need the coach when you feel great. It's when you call them boulders, as you're on your way. That's where it gets really tough.
And to take this even further, as a lot of women, like, I don't want to say for you, but for me, like I did all of my thinking just out of my head,
Mm-hmm.
just so much like intellectual, like reading and thinking about things all the time. But I was missing out on like my body sensations. They're telling us something, feelings, and actually feeling in, even if you're picturing where you want to be, like feeling how good it is, like how your body is like how you're feeling, how you're looking. And then this intuition piece I work on a lot with women. But there's 4 elements that are guiding us all in life: the intellect, mind, the intellect, the body, feelings, and the intuition. But it's so interesting that most of us in our worlds, we only pay attention to the intellect.
Well, yeah, because that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure that's what gets you think about a lot of people that are high achievers and education wise, that they said at one point, I want to do this important job and I want to be this important person, and then at some point, maybe if they still don't want to do it, saying no is no longer an option because that's been committed. And women have great intuition, but we are not rewarded for it.
You're right, actually. And that's what makes it so hard for us, is because society is telling women not to listen to their intuition. So it's caused a lot of women to actually clam up and not pay attention and overwrite it.
Yeah, for
It's like
sure.
peeling those layers off so they can see like actually what's coming through to you. And I can show you how to feel it through your body, your feelings, your mind. If you can actually lean into that intuition more, it'll take you a lot further, because there's many indicators coming through and you have been right your whole life, and society or other people in your life have made you wrong.
Yeah, that's hard because on the other side of that, a lot of times when people are telling you not to go after something big and scary, and it's a protection to not watch you fail, or to not have you go through any sort of failure. And I think when I'm coaching people through going after big goals or entering an industry that maybe is somehow taboo or something, well, so and so told me maybe I shouldn't go after that. And a lot of times they're not telling you to not go after it because they think you're an idiot, but because they don't want to see you go through any heartache or failure. So we protect ourselves, and we encourage our family and our friends and our children and everybody else to protect themselves instead of going after those big things. And I don't know, there's a difference between going after something big and scary responsibly and also jumping off of a cliff or something, like, well, grabbing parachute later.
Yeah, there is. Although I kind of feel like at some points, if you want a quantum leap, it feels like you're jumping off a
Mm-hmm.
cliff
Mm-hmm.
in what you're doing. A lot of the work that I do is the more the feeling of how I get somebody ready to take the steps where it feels like they're jumping off the cliff instead of the small shifts. Like I make big swings in people's life. But if you look back on what you were saying about people making comments about, well, I don't know if that sounds safe, we all have this safety mechanism, our subconscious mind, that is telling us all these stories that only are there to keep us safe, right? And I always say that when somebody's coming up and giving you advice, like, I want to do that, like that's their material. And what if you could just shut that off, realize it's their material, and never listen to it again? Because it's not, they don't have your guidance system. They have no
Right.
idea. So
Yeah.
remember, it's their material, not yours.
Yeah. I kind of get like excited about doing something somebody told me I can't do, or should
Oh,
do.
rebel. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a feeling you probably work with a lot of people that are on that rebellious side. Um,
I've
and
got some of that in me too. That comes straight through my father down to me.
and it's hard to say, especially as a woman in a, most industries are male dominated. I feel I work in the beauty industry, and there's some good male domination going on in there too, which you wouldn't think, but there is. And it's hard to confidently say, I want to sit at the top. I want to be there, because we then put ourselves in this like, oh, well, who do you think you are? Or, maybe you need to make room for somebody else. Or, don't you have other responsibilities? Or is it really that important? Are you going to run over everybody to get there? Those are all like fears that come up when you say those things out loud, and can be really, really hard to embrace that feeling of like, yep, I'm going straight to the top. You coming with, or what?
Yeah. So may I ask you a question? Are you
Yeah.
open to me?
Yeah.
Okay. I get the feeling you actually kind of want to go to the top with what you're doing. And
Oh, always. 100%. 100%.
okay, 100%. So then when you actually lean into that, do you see yourself standing alone, or do you actually see yourself with a crowd of badass people with you that are doing it?
Oh, that's a great question. Because no, you see yourself alone.
Oh,
You,
that's interesting because everything you're doing is
oh,
bringing people with you.
oh, I know. I know. I don't do anything by myself, but when I think about going to the top, I'm like, oh, well, there you are, just by yourself, hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do
So
you leave behind in the way to the top? Like that's probably a fear.
it is a fear because, and I think that's a good way to look at it is like, how are you picturing it? Because the other story you could be telling yourself is the people I've always wanted to be around my entire life are standing there with me at the top.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. When you say that, I can see that too. But when to answer the question honestly, that's
Mhm.
where that is. And I think that fear of that fear of surpassing everybody in your life because you say you're going to the top is really real for a lot of people. When you're, especially if you're going to do something outside of the box, and doing something outside of a regular 9 to 5 is outside of the box for most people. And here we are just
Yeah.
killing it. It's
It's
very cool.
very outside the box. And there are people, I will be very honest, there are people you will have to let go if you want to
Sure.
continue to evolve, because there's people in everyone's lives, including my own, that I saw clearly on how they weren't serving me. And they were actually questioning or placing a lot more doubt in my mind. And once I started to move them out of my life and make the decision to let them go, I actually became a lot happier and was able to create connection in ways that I never thought I could experience in my life too.
Yeah, I know that's like a huge fear for people, is that when you do have to, because that is a conversation I hear a lot in leadership. Well, sometimes people just aren't serving you. They don't, they come into your life for a reason or a season, and you have to let people go. And that's a really scary thing, because you think, but I guess it probably, and for clarity, doesn't always mean they're gone completely. It just means like that just level of involvement changes. It looks different. Would that be accurate to say?
It could be. Sometimes they're gone completely, but I think the other side of what a lot of people aren't allowing themselves to see is like, what is the amazing other side that they get to experience when they do let some people go out of their lives? Because the
Mm,
reality is you can paint whatever picture you want over here and start stepping into the relationships you've always dreamed of. And I'm talking about friends, community in your business, like who's up there with you, like who's doing great things. And that's
right.
the part where we're so scared of letting go sometimes that we aren't actually allowing ourselves to fully actually feel the freedom and the excitement and the joy that comes on the other side. And
Yeah.
I've
Well,
done
and
this a
this
lot in
is
life.
not
Mhm.
the first time you've mentioned it. The other thing that you talk about is space and time, and having people embrace space and time. And you talked about, during 2020, spending more time outdoors and, hiking and, things like that with your partner. And I bring it up because I think so many people that are in any sort of high achievement, or trying to dominate their business or their industry, when you think about stepping away, that's when the dollar signs start to disappear. And who's going to do it then if I'm not there? The entire time. That can be a real fear. Is that something you work on? Is that like a top thing you work on with people?
It is, because actually the truth is the more space they create, is the likelihood is they will actually, well, I shouldn't say likelihood. The more space they create, they become more creative in how to make money. So what I see in the work that I do is they become actually more financially secure and set in life by creating more space. It's just what they've always known. And I was the same way. What they've always known their entire life is they connect almost time to dollars. And if
Yes.
they're not the ones doing it, they're not going to get the financial security or the financial dream they've always wanted. So
Right.
you have to put that aside, like the old thinking, and this is what I do, work with a lot of women to really embrace the opposite. And I remember questioning my coach so many times, like, is this really going to be real for me? Like, I feel like this is a mirage. Like, what the heck am I doing? Like this is the part of the cliff for me. One of them was money. And I was like, if I start stepping out more and more, I could go bankrupt. And I kept saying that over again. It wasn't like I was going to lose a client or anything like that. It was like, I'm going bankrupt.
It's all
It
going
never
upside down, nothing.
yeah. I have a big story that I used to tell myself, but the truth is the more creative, the more space I created, the more I could actually evolve my company because I had better ideas and I could see things more clearly on the other side and I could make more money than I ever had before.
Wow, that's a real foreign concept to people because, we learn that our worth is something in an hourly rate. Whether, what is your time worth? I'm always like, what's your time worth? What's your time worth? And it wasn't until I actually worked in engineering and I saw what their billable hours were and what they charged for their billable time, for an hour to a client or whatever. And that was when I was like, oh, well, if this, so as a business owner, if my time is worth, let's just say $200 an hour, and this task that I don't want to do any damn way costs me $40, but it takes me 3 hours, why am I not delegating those things? That was a huge, like, mind blown thing to me, where I was like, oh, I could be spending my $200 an hour actually figuring out ways to make better income. And instead, no, here I am, like, typing out that newsletter like it's my job.
Yeah. And the other thing, people are really scared to like increase fees is another area. There's lots of money issues that I look at with people, but the reality is if you keep your fees really low and charge like low prices, you actually, and you want to go and work with like higher end people
Yeah.
or higher end clientele, you don't get to work with them because they're not in your world when you're charging low fees.
Right.
I've
Well, you're
done this.
chasing your tail so much. I mean, you have to work twice as hard to make half the amount of money. And it's, yeah. And that's really, I think most entrepreneurs almost have to like walk that walk a little bit before they're like, oh, I got it now.
Yeah, and they're really scared to do it. So a lot of the work I do
Yeah.
is like, well, let's do something in your life where you absolutely have to do it. Then you can see what happens on the other side, to feel it, to trust yourself more.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, and in that realm, it's like almost like coaching people through like who their target market really is. When you say your target market can only afford $20 for X service or whatever, but really, you could be charging double that, triple that, sometimes even a lot more. Like, you open yourself up to a whole new target market, where you, in your mind as an entrepreneur, you think, oh, well, it's only this because all the people I know would only spend that much money. Well, I mean, are you only going to work for the people you know forever, or where are we going with this? Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem, is they've surrounded themselves with only the people that would pay $20 an hour when there's a huge market that would pay $1,200 an hour, but
Yeah.
they haven't even tried to tap into that market because it feels really like you're stepping off the cliff again.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
reality
Well,
is that 1,200 is just as viable and there's enough people out there to fill your cup up too. You just are choosing not to see it.
yeah. Have you gotten, I don't know if you're an iPhone person or not, but have you gotten on Clubhouse yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have been like mind blown at some of the high level conversations going on in there. And I've not really participated in many yet. And it's not like me to not be like the first one to start talking in a room, but I'm like, I'm sitting in a room with Grant Cardone right now. I think I'm just going to shut up and listen. And you know what he does? And I don't know if you've listened to any of his stuff. He is constantly asking other people about like their little pieces of success, and he'll have like some of the gurus on his stage or whatever it's called, say, no, let's let the audience talk. Like, let's have them share like their little secrets and tips with us and stuff. And I've been like incredibly impressed by that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's the curiosity of when you're like really rising up, you start taking on a more curious mindset, because asking the questions of what everyone else is going through and dealing with helps him become even better at what he does.
right. Yeah. Helps
It's
him
just
market. Yeah.
fun.
What are all the
It's like
people that
supporting everyone, right?
yeah. And
You
what
know,
are all the people that I'm marketing to saying out there in the world? And let me go ahead and switch my message to that, which is so smart. It's like, it's brilliant. I have to not turn it on though. I had to turn my notifications off for a week because last week got too deep into a few of these the millionaire conversations out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're fascinating.
They are fascinating. I'm pretty excited. We're going to start rolling out. I've got a couple of also coaches that are in a little bit different realms that we're going to start doing some rooms too. And
Yeah,
I think it starts in a week. We're going to
very
start.
cool. I'll have to make sure I go follow you
Yeah,
um, out there and make sure I'm.
it's fascinating new platform.
Yeah. So when did you start your coaching business officially?
Yeah, about a year ago, actually.
Oh,
I
so
was,
right in the beginning of this pandemic?
yeah. Yeah, and I should think it was probably even longer than that because I had been, let me think. Yeah, because I had been doing things in my area, like the same type of clientele that I was working in the law firm, where I was teaching those leaders how to get much better results in their organizations. And it was through that I was like, no, it keeps coming up that I want to work with women. So I did the full shift in regards to working with them, where I do primarily all the work that I do is with them.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you certainly have a different message than what we've had on our stage before, especially coming from this like go after something big feeling. What when you're oh, my question was what, Kendra? Oh, when you are so you're speaking at the U conference, what are you like without giving away too much of what you're going to talk about? What do you want to leave people feeling that attend your session?
Mhm. I want people to understand like how easy it is if they step into their uniqueness to rise in their industry. If they went full in on what they're being called to do, to implement, to create, how quickly they can utilize that to really rise up.
Yeah, that's very cool. And it's a conversation that we have a lot about, there's 100 people that do what you do probably in your community. Not no very few people are doing anything truly unique out there. And not that that doesn't exist, but for the most part, we're all doing something somebody else does. So really the only commodity that sets you apart from your peers is you and what you bring to the table. And I think we're supposed to not like get braggy about that, right?
Mm. But we are actually supposed to be braggy about that because every person has something very unique that they want to bring into the world, and we're all trying to fit in. I'm not doing this, but most people are trying to fit in, and most of the women I work with realize that they're like, I want to do all of this, but I keep feeling drawn, and this is how I was in my law firm to continue the status quo in my industry. And it's
Yeah.
just like, how can you actually understand what keeps you stuck and then go for it on what you're being called to implement, to do, how it's going to be unique to you, because really you are the whole business. You're the entrepreneur, you're everything in regards to making your
Yeah.
business fine.
Well, and when I talk about what I want to do and what I want to do long term, it's always about being a disruption. Like that's a word that I love to use. And that has and the reason I like to use it is because as a woman, we're often told to not be disruptive, and not just women. I mean, people in general are, to toe the line. And I grew up when I first started my career, to grab a broom and do as much as you can and, not question authority. And, I don't think the next generation behind me has really accepted that, thankfully. Between that and the avocado toast, I thank the millennials for a lot. But I think there is, a lot of pride in being this disruption, but then you are going to have to toot your own damn horn sometimes. That can be so tough to do. Like, no, really, I'm great. Just ask me.
Yeah, and there's definitely, and I'll be talking about it in my session, there is definitely a philosophy that goes behind it on how you can do it. And this is really the heart of how I work with people. And it's just a beautiful thing. And it's also like you get to bond with the other disruptors. That's probably why I came into your world, is because you're a disruptor. I see myself as the same thing. And you get to see more and more of them. And it allows you to step more into being even more of a disruptor, actually, is when you
Yeah, yeah.
surround yourself with people that think the same way or want that in their lives.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I well, on a more personal level, because I could probably ask you questions about this forever. I find this topic really fascinating. But what are some of the things that you create time and space for, if that's the message? And what's the next like goal for your time and space capsule in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was meeting up with my banker, the bankers that I know the other day, and they asked me like, what do I like to do for fun? And my response, Kendra, was literally like, sometimes I love to just lay in a room and just think, like, have space, have nothing going on, shut off all technology, my phone's not in the room, and just lay there and allow any ideas that come up to come up for like 30 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour, and maybe it's like good music or like light jazz on the background. And I walked away being like, that was probably the weirdest, like, what's your hobby answer to a question that's ever happened. But there's this beauty in just like putting yourself in, or maybe it's a walk in nature where I'm not thriving or trying to get to a certain distance, but just like enjoying the beauty of life and enjoying like just feeling good and seeing what comes up for me. That's probably one of my favorite things to do in life, is just to feel into like, how great can I feel today? How much space can I give myself to like check myself out in the mirror, like do whatever it is to feel good, like to
Yeah.
actually feel good, and then hold that throughout my day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to force myself to do really sometimes stupid and giant physical goals, because in order to actually like accomplish them, there has to have some work go into it, and then making time for the work. Because for me, I mean, work is the work that I do. It's part hobby. It's all passion, and and I enjoy it. So it's hard to pull me away from it. Unless I sign up for like a $500 Ironman or something. And then I don't really like my money wasted. So then I go buy a $2,000 bike, and then and then
And
now my money's really wasted. And now I'm still stuck in this damn hobby because we keep getting deferred on dates. So
oh, training for years.
yeah. Although I have not been trading, and it's funny because my next date is coming up, and I'm like, you either need to start trading or really start hoping that this pandemic gets worse so they cancel your race, which I don't want. So here we are, get to
When's
work.
the race?
June.
June. Good.
June. Yeah. So that's those like, but the fact that you can say that you can sit in a room for a half an hour to an hour and push it all away, that's impressive. That's some work that's been done, I'm sure, to get there.
A lot of work that's been done, because I'm similar to most women that this was not my default setting at all. But
Mhm.
the beauty of seeing what comes up for me, it's just like mind blowing, the ideas that I get when I do something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it also like is a great reminder that you don't have to go somewhere or do something or, spend money or whatever to actually to escape. Although I do have a hard time sitting still for very long. It's not something I do well. The medication helps.
Always a practice. Yeah.
Yeah, totally all true. Yeah. On another personal note, you said you have a white golden retriever, which
Yeah.
we saw him leave if you're watching the video. So have you always been a dog person?
Yes. My whole
Yeah.
life. As
So
soon as I could get out of college and like have my own place and get a dog, I had a dog.
yeah, so that probably forces you some time away too, and to focus on something. And he probably loves this damn outside, doesn't he? This
Not -8, like,
no.
because his paws will freeze up because we have so much snow, or her paws will freeze up, but otherwise, yes, she
Yeah.
loves it cold. But I think the snow, she's 10, so the snow's getting a little deeper. We've got a lot of it, but usually this is her prime time to shine.
Well, I'm excited to have you at the conference. I'm excited to hear your message and to have other people hear your message too. I know we have so many people in our community that are, I think many probably closeted of like or feeling like if they proclaim that they want to be at the top of then they have something they have to prove, and that can be that can be really hard to know that you're all in that way in your life and your business. But I'm glad that they're getting this message from you, because I think it's not an easy message for people to give or receive. But I think it's really necessary. And I think just encouraging women to go after their big dreams.
Mhm.
um, I think it's important. And
Yeah.
I think it's really great. So I'm excited for that to happen. Is there anything else that you want people to know about you, or anything that you have going on right now, or anything that you do?
Yeah, well, one thing I should mention about the top is the top's different for every woman.
Oh, good
So,
call.
and I think we try to think that the top is all the same. Like I have to be this much, make this much revenue, but it's actually very different in allowing women to choose what their top is. is a lot of the work I do with them, because the feeling of like I have to somehow reach the goals or $1 million like everyone else is actually not what I do. I allow women to guide themselves into actually what their top is. And
So not necessarily like a revenue goal or a title goal or, that, yeah, that's a great reminder. Because throughout this conversation, I mean, that's how my brain thinks, like, in my sales company, I sit in like the top, like 1% or something. And I'm like, not good enough until I'm number one, and I actually got called out by a mentor the other day. He said, because I kept saying I'm going to change the world. And he's like, why do you talk about that in such present or future tense? And I'm like, because I haven't changed the world yet. And he's like, what are you talking about? You do that every day. And I'm like, well, no. I mean, there's 7.5 billion people in the world. So I've got a long ways to go. And he's like, oh, so you don't get to like put the crown on until you've reached all 7.5 billion. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it sounded ridiculous when I said it like that, but maybe women need checked in that way too, or maybe it's just me.
Well, I actually think you were taking me to try to end, and we're getting back into it. But I think having the idea that I actually want to impact like whatever that is for you in this way, and having that be the divide of like, I'm here now and I'm grateful for where I'm at now, but I know I want this. And this is like my nugget that I'm going after. I think there's actually a tremendous amount of power. So don't let that stand in your way either, because I think the more that you can actually envision what that looks like when you're impacting the world and how many people are following you, and that's part of like the excitement about where you're going, Kendra.
Yeah. Well, and that's what U Conferences wants to do. I mean, we want to give people the stage that didn't have an opportunity to have one. And, we really want to impact people in a way to go after their dreams. And I also am like really committed to having every one of those conversations, wherever you're at in your journey, when you attend that conference, that there's a conversation that will speak to you. So we're excited to hear what you have to say. And yes, I do. I that's how I end phone calls too. Oh yeah, we're about done. Oh, but one more thing. Oh, half an hour later. Here we are.
Exactly.
So note to self, whoever's listening, if you ever end up on the phone with me, just tell me you gotta go. Tell me there's a fire. I'll hang up.
Well, I've appreciated talking to you, and I'm really excited to be speaking. Any content, like Instagram is where I release most of my content. So
Okay, good to know.
live on Instagram. I do live videos every week talking about different mindset shifts for women in regards to their business or what they truly want in life. So they can always get a little bit of taste there before we go to the conference. I'm really excited, Kendra.
Yeah, that's great. We'll have you linked in the session notes or in the podcast notes. I don't know all the lingo all the time. In the description below, period. We'll have all your links listed there. All right. Thank you so much. Now I have to figure out which buttons to push. Okay. Thank you. We're going to hit this button.